Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have D.E. Hendrix. We'll be discussing her book, Tales from a Far Off Place, called Home, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Or if you guys want to get everything that Dee has to offer, do yourself a favor. Don't stop at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, okay? Go directly to her personal website. That's dynamicdawn.wixsite.com/my site. So that's DYNAMICDAWNE dot WIXSITE.com/my site. There, not only will you be able to find more information on Dee herself, but you'll also be able to find her book and purchase it directly through the site also. So one last time, that's dynamicdawn.wixsite.com/my site. And I will say, Dee was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business. Authors Avenue Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, well, move it through Authors Avenue. Guys, I am so excited. It is absolutely a delight to have Dee here on the line with us because the book we're going to be discussing today, Tales from a Far Off Place Called Home, it's such a great book with an amazing and powerful message, and really something that we could all relate to, right? Now, it's a fictional narrative, but keep in mind, one of the underlying themes among many, it's really all about growing, right? It's about growing up. It's about growth in how our experiences shape the people that we become, right? And listen, speaking from my own experience, being an East Coast boy, moving to California about 10 years ago, California, really, the West Coast and the East Coast are two completely different worlds. I remember, my first days, and I've been here now for over 10 years, but I remember when I first came out and how vastly different the West Coast was in comparison to everything that I had known from the East Coast. But my experiences, my upbringing, everything that I had gone through really helped shape my development and really helped shape my transition here on the West Coast. And again, our experiences, guys, that evolution as we grow shapes so much of the people we become. And I think that is such an amazing message. And listen, Dee is going to be the expert on the matter, okay? She's going to be able to articulate this message much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's jump in, let's bring her here on the line. Dee, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
I'm good. I'm fine. I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we are very glad to have you. Now, Dee, before we jump into the book itself, let's hold off slightly, okay? Tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was an educator for almost 20 years, and then I stopped writing, moved back home with stopped writing. I stopped teaching, moved back home with my parents. And just right now, I'm just freelancing, and I have another job. But for the most part, I was in education and I've been a writer for, some 14, 15 years.
Wow. You know, First and foremost, listen, let me be the first one here to congratulate you on our show. Listen, I taught for 4 years. My significant other, she's a teacher now. She teaches high school. She's been teaching for the past 15 years. I'll be the first to tell you here on the show, listen, teachers don't get nearly enough credit for the amount of work that they have to do. So thank you so much for being, on the front lines, shaping our young minds here in the society. And, again, we commend you for the work that you've been able to do.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoyed teaching. It was fun. You learned a lot from your. I learned a lot from my students because I taught at the community college level. So, for the most part, I taught some high school, but it was a good experience. I think it shaped a lot of my, opinions and ideas. And I know it's influenced my writing.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, listen, without further ado, let's jump right in. Tales from a Far Off Place Called Home. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Okay, the book is really it's about four friends, and when you kind of look at the book, you kind of think, oh, it's another story about friendship, but and it probably is another story about friendship, but it's about it's about their evolution. It's like the book takes place like it begins somewhere in the 1960s, the early 1960s, and ends somewhere in the early 80s. And so you see this 20-year evolution of these four people who come from a relatively good community, relatively good families, except for one character who experiences instability in his early life. And then, it kind of talks, it takes the characters and the readers through all the things that can happen to someone, at 18 to shape them into